We had a pretty wild Tuesday here with multiple wide receiver trades coming in. We went over Davante Adams on the waiver wire show, but how about the Bills in the same division making a move, trading for Amari Cooper? The Bills send a 2025 third rounder and 2026 seventh rounder. In return, the Browns send Amari Cooper and a 2025 sixth round pick. So, Matthew, this feels like great news if you've been rostering Amari Cooper. You go from Deshaun Watson, maybe the worst quarterback in the league, to Josh Allen, a top 3 quarterback in the league.
By the way, and not a ton of target competition. I get that the Bills have a lot of guys, but I think it's the lack of production from all those guys that made the Bills say, like, if we're going to make a run here, we need some production from the receiver room. We let Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis go in the offseason. We thought we replaced them with Keon Coleman and Curtis Samuel and an elevated role for Khalil Shakir, and that just hasn't panned out the way we hoped. So let's go get a proven veteran, a guy like Amari Cooper, who's played in a bunch of different offenses. We've seen this before where Amari Cooper gets traded mid-season and immediately starts producing. So Josh Allen, who led all quarterbacks in deep pass attempts last season, suddenly gets a true #1 wide receiver. Since the start of last year, only Tirico Hill has more deep targets in the NFL than Amari Cooper. He's got a 27% target share this year, Amari does, but only 60% of his targets have been catchable. But now he gets Josh Allen, proud Fantasy Life investor, Josh Allen. You see the screen right there in terms of who the receiving leaders, and I'm using that word in quotes, of the Buffalo Bills are. I mean, Keon Coleman with, 12 for 201 and 2 touchdowns. Shakir, like, it's just been sort of like this, wide receiver by committee. Mac Hollins has gotten some work out there as well. Feels like Mac Hollins and Keon Coleman are the ones that are sort of, quote, the bigger losers in terms of snaps. You'll still see, Shakir and Samuel in the slot. But listen, Amari gets out of Cleveland. Davante gets out of Vegas. So yes, disgruntled wide receivers, it is your day. Congratulations.
You're free. It seems like you're all happy.
But you know what? Listen.
Well, Davante Adams was definitely disgruntled.
Oh, very disgruntled.
He was over it.
I don't think
he was already over at Adams' house.
He was over it.
They was setting that up like, hey man, we about to pull the trade off. Come from the back and then show up on the screen.
Oh yeah, it was well done by them. That was well played. But back to Amari Cooper here for a second. Amari Cooper, who was borderline unstartable, he had the one big game, but really because Deshaun Watson and that Browns offense has been so dysfunctional so far for much of the year that you're just sort of like, we've done keep it open, close it out with Amari Cooper. Right. You're just sort of like, I'm closing it out. But now goes to Josh Allen. I think Amari Cooper is now on the borderline wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, radar there. I think somewhere in the 18 to 22 range is where you feel like Cooper is in a neutral matchup.
Big upgrade.
A big, massive upgrade for Amari Cooper. Also, by the way, I think there's just something mentally about going from a team that's 1-5 and there's, they know the Browns aren't going anywhere, to now, like, you got a shot at a Super Bowl this year. You've got a shot at a Super Bowl. You've got a shot. You definitely got a real shot at the playoffs, at a home playoff game, and potentially the Super Bowl if you're Amari Cooper. Josh Allen helps Josh Allen. It's like he was already a top 5 fantasy quarterback, already, one of the elites, but this certainly helps maybe the inconsistency. As I mentioned, last week was really good, but the 2 weeks prior he'd been bad. Cost me a .14 loss to Jay Croucher and his grape slappers because Josh Allen had single-digit fantasy points.
It'll give him what he had lost in those first 3 years with Stephon Diggs. Is good for both parties. The things with Amari Cooper when he was in Cleveland was like, hey, he's still getting 8 targets a game, but now if he could get those same 8 targets here in Buffalo, he'll be set up nice. Just got to worry about him in the cold a little bit, but that's for another day. When it gets cold, it's not that cold yet.
Yeah, in Buffalo, it gets cold in 2 weeks.
It gets cold as hell in Buffalo. It's probably cold now.
It is.
Which is very true, but it also gets cold in Cleveland, not Buffalo cold, because nothing gets Buffalo cold. And Cooper has not traditionally played well in the cold weather. But either way, my point is if I'd gone to you, Lawrence, and said, hey, you're an Amari Cooper manager, I got a choice for you. I can either trade him to a cold weather team like Buffalo, or you can stay in Cleveland.
In another cold weather,
You'd been like, get him to Buffalo, right? I think this is a good move for Josh Allen, for Amari Cooper, for fantasy managers of either one of those guys. I think the 2 other things I'll say here on this trade is, number one, is the remaining Bills pass catchers are all now, like, not usable. They already were.
Shakir's a flex?
Shakir maybe. Like,
yeah, I would say Shakir.
PPR flex?
PPR flex maybe. Like, you know, he didn't. Samuel played more snaps, was the better player, but he's not healthy.
That's not good.
So once Khalil Shakir is fully healthy, maybe, but also, by the way, Curtis Samuel I thought looked pretty good against the Jets.
He made some plays.
And he was somebody that was banged up at the beginning of the year. So I don't know. I think it's hard to sit here and say, like, when both guys are fully healthy, Samuel or Shakir is definitely going to be the slot guy you want.
Right.
I think they'll mix and match with both those guys. You've also got Kincaid as well. So I just feel like this is going to be sort of other than Amari Cooper, you just sort of like, so Matt Collins will catch a touchdown one week, and then Keon Coleman, and then Samuel. Like, it's just going to be kind of like this, blah. You know, you're going to still start Dalton Kincaid because he's a tight end.
Right.
Yeah.
And the running backs, but it sort of simplifies for me, at least. I'm just like, if you were trying to count on any of these ancillary Bills pass catchers beyond Kincaid, now you can just be sort of like, no thanks. I dropped Shakir in a couple of leagues last night to pick up waiver play, to make waiver claims because I thought, well, Mari's coming there. And then the last thing I'll say is that on the on the Cleveland Browns side, it's hard to trust anyone because the passing game has been so dysfunctional with Deshaun Watson. I'm hoping that at some point they turn to Jameis Winston. Feels like they're realizing it ain't their year and maybe they're blowing it up by getting Amari out of there. Of course, there's an argument to keep rolling Watson out there so you get a low draft pick,
right.
you know. But but I will say that you know, I've never been the biggest Jerry Jeudy fan, but certainly an increased target share for him. I think the biggest winner here is David Njoku, who to me is the most proven pass catcher on the Browns. The schedule gets a little bit easier for Cleveland. But Connor, I know you and I have talked about this guy, especially from a dynasty perspective. I picked up Cedric Tillman in a couple of deep leagues. I've always liked Cedric Tillman. And
I loved him in that draft class. So big body perimeter receiver. Somebody has to play on the outside in this offense. I know he had a rocky rookie season over there. He didn't really earn his way into more targets or opportunity, but I still believe in the talent with Cedric Tillman. And somebody has to play. This is going to be a big opportunity for him. And Elijah Moore has never taken the reins there, so I'm not expecting anything from him.
Yeah, it feels like Cedric Tillman has the most upside. Whether that turns into anything this year or not, but like in deeper leagues, maybe worth a flyer.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about the Browns offense, so we could move on.
We'll move on to stay in the division with the Steelers offense.
You said it.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.